Hey, how are you? I'm sorry, I've been away from my YouTube channel for a little bit, but I want to bring it back. We're going to do a post-summer market report. My market reports have been gaining a little bit of traction here, so I'm going to do them a little bit more frequently, see if I can continue that momentum. But I'm going to do them a little bit differently. One of the things I'm going to talk about in these reports is I'm going to talk about the metrics that people use to determine what the real estate market is doing. And most of them I'm going to tear to ribbons because they are not very good metrics. There's all sorts of reasons those metrics exist. I will probably go over that one by one. I don't want to do an exhaustive thing here. I want to do a short market report. Initial metric that has me all worked up at the moment. So I've talked with a couple of buyers over this summer, and one of the things that they're seeing is some houses are not selling immediately, and some sellers have to do price cuts. And so the theory here is that because sellers are doing price cuts, then prices must be falling. But there's a difference between prices falling and sellers asking prices falling. I think it gets lost in the market that sellers, and sometimes their agents, don't always know what a house can get. And some sellers prefer to go too high rather than too low or at market. While in a normal market, most sellers and agents are able to sort of figure out pretty close to what market is, and about 60% of them, 60% of the houses come on at market. In most normal markets, 10 to 15% of the houses come on below market, maybe even as much as 20, some of them significantly below market because they're in a hurry to sell. And then the rest of them, which is around 25%, they come on too high. They want to make sure they don't leave a whole lot of money on the table. And so it becomes a situation where you start seeing a fair number of houses doing price cuts. But how can we figure out what the market is really doing underneath? Well, when I'm trying to figure out pricing data, I have found out through a lot of trial and error that the most accurate way to do it is to look at a time lapse, okay, a longer period of what people are paying for dollars per square foot. This solves a lot of problems, especially if you localize it to a particular town. If you look at dollars per square foot, that tends to give you one of the most accurate measures as to what the pricing activity is going on here. So I looked at four separate towns, and what I did is I looked at basically all the closings from May of 2024 to September 1st of 2024. And that was a year ago. And then I'm comparing it with the exact same period of time, about 4 months. And we're looking at the differences in pricing. So let's take a look at the data. So the first town I'm going to look at is Framingham. And so what we see here is that in Framingham, prices were $385 a square foot in 2024, and they were $380 a square foot in 2025. So if you were in Framingham and you said, I think prices are coming down, you are correct. But they're not coming down very much. I mean, $5 a square foot, it's not so much, but prices from year to year have definitely come down. And part of the reason they've come down is because there's been enough inventory in Framingham where the buyers aren't necessarily chasing certain houses that were overpriced a year ago. And so I would argue that there were houses that needed to sell cheaper last year but didn't because there wasn't enough availability. Now that that availability is coming into the market, the risk premiums are starting to show up. And that's making it look like there are lower prices. But if you had a house that's in really good condition and it's not very old and it's in a premium location, you are probably getting the same price or better in Framingham than you were last year. The price cuts have been everywhere. So let's take a look at Framingham's neighbor, Natick. Let's take a look at what the data tells us there. Now, Natick, you'll see right off the bat, is considerably more expensive than Framingham. And the prices that they got last year were $473 a foot. What do we see this year? Well, this year we see $473 a foot. So even though there have been houses that are sitting around and there are houses that are on the market right now, and there have been a lot of sellers cutting prices, prices are the same. They really haven't moved at all. Okay? So that is pretty interesting. So prices in Natick seem to be doing a little bit better than they're doing in Framingham. Not a world different. Again, we're talking about a very small change in Framingham. And this is, basically no change in Natick. But let's move ahead to Milford. Now, Milford hasn't run quite as hot, as fast as Framingham and Natick. Framingham and Natick are a little bit further east. Milford's out on 495. Milford is also quite a bit more affordable than either of those towns. Let's see what the prices were doing there. And we can see that in 2024, the dollars per square foot was 294. And in 2025, it was 305. That's right. Prices actually went up in Milford, and this is very common when you've been in a hot market and it starts to cool off. The more affordable towns tend to keep going for a while, even when overall the market has turned. And this has to do with something that I call price compression, which starts at the luxury level and works its way down. Talk about that in another video. But again, this is a very normal thing that we see. And what you've seen already in doing this is that some towns can have prices coming in, some prices can be flat, and some prices are still going up. And this is despite the fact that in Milford there have still been plenty of price changes. Okay, there have been plenty of sellers who have been cutting prices. That is going on in Milford, but still prices are going up because buyers see value there. So the fourth town that we're going to look at is Foxborough. And Foxborough in 2024 was $363 a square foot. This year, 372. So again, we see that it's up. It's up about $10 a square foot, maybe 2.5%. So, again, another data point, even though it feels like there's more inventory, which there definitely is, and it feels like prices are being cut, prices are not falling. Prices are still going up. And my last data point here is going to be Concord. Concord is one of the most expensive towns in Massachusetts, up there on the Route 2 corridor. I just wanted to pick something up there that was geographically different than some of these other towns. And in 2024, you could get a house in Concord for a pretty remarkable $555 a square foot. Pretty pricey up there in Concord. But in 2025, it certainly did not get any cheaper. If you were looking for real softness in the luxury market, you didn't see it in Concord. Prices went up to $566 a square foot. So I think, again, it's very easy to look around at the real estate signs that are out there right now and see the price cutting and think, I'm going to be able to get a better deal right now. But the truth is, last year, on average, you were getting better deals than you probably are right now in most of the towns. But you should definitely take a look at the town in particular that you're looking at, and you should look at that dollar per square foot metric that I've used here. That is likely to give you the most real-time data for where prices are going. Now, another word of caution, remember that I used 4 months of data in order to figure it out. You really can't, there's usually not enough sales in a single month to get a good read on dollars per square foot data. 4 months is kind of the minimum. 6 months is even better, like a trailing 6 months. That sort of weeds out a lot of temperature fluctuations in the market and seasonal variability and stuff like that. So when you're looking for dollar per square foot information, this is the way to go. I hope that you enjoyed this market report, and we'll check in with you next time.